Welcome back to CryptosRUs. I am George. We're all George. So today I have some interesting metrics to show you, dubbed launch zone. I found one specifically, like you saw in the thumbnail. Pretty interesting. I know, again, a lot of people are getting antsy, wary, maybe in regret, wondering why Bitcoin is not moving. Well, I have some interesting metrics to show you that may indicate that we are in this launch zone and that Bitcoin is ready to move up. Among other things, there's other interesting things I want to talk about as well. So thanks for tuning in. As always, smash up the like and subscribe to the channel. 2 streams every day, 11:30 and 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. So make sure you hit that notification bell to get notified. And follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and CryptosRUs.com. All right, guys. Welcome. Lively crowd today. So let me change my screen. Here we go. All right. Starting with Bitcoin, 33,186. Again, we're still kind of just going sideways last night. I drew this wedge. I'm like, all right, we're in this wedge. We were at the top of the wedge, looking like it was going to break out. Nope. Came right back down. Now it's the bottom of the wedge. We're probably going to see a breakout, right? Is it going to be up or down? Is it going to break down to 31 or is it going to break up to 36 and beyond? Well, it's anyone's guess right now, but there are some launch zones, some interesting metrics that show that, yeah, Bitcoin is gearing up for the next leg up. All right, so overall, Bitcoin is still pretty boring right now. If you look at, I am now using Live Coin Watch, which is very cool alternative to CMC, and you could configure this 100 different ways, including having your own portfolio and all these things that you look at, time scales and from all-time high and all these things. Everything's configurable, really nice, and they do not depend on CMC for their price data. They get it directly from the exchanges, so that's also very good. But anyways, looking at overall CMC, Bitcoin dominance is still the same, 45%, same as yesterday. So overall, things are just moving in tandem, not a whole lot of volume going on, and things are just going sideways. Now, one of the reasons why, at least for this week, is this. A lot of people are paying attention to like what is going on with Grayscale, what they're unlocking, and I think this is wrong. And that's because you could see in this summary from Cointelegraph, they're talking about unlocking 40,000 BTC. Now, Grayscale is unlocking 40,000 BTC worth of GBTC shares. That's the thing. I think there's a lot of confusion over this, unless I am wrong and Grayscale is going to unlock the BTC that's within the GBTC share, trust. But that's not the case. From all indications from everyone that have spoken about this, everyone is talking about how Grayscale is going to unlock the shares that the institutions bought 6 months ago. And there's no guarantee that they're going to sell or dump. Many people are anticipating that they will. And in the worst case scenario, even if they do, that just means there's a lot of cheap GBTC shares available for retail investors to buy. And in fact, you could argue that buying them would be smart because you're getting a discount versus the NAV, which is the net asset value of the whole trust. Now, some people are speculating that this could bring weakness to Bitcoin because you're getting such a bargain with basically negative premium on these GBTC shares that a lot of institutions may even be buying GBTC. That may be true. But as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, there's no Bitcoin that's being sold. Everything is shares. It's a representative of the trust in total. So there is a lot of eyes on it, a lot of speculation, whether or not this is going to cause price to go up or down. I think this could be a non-event. And this could be an event where things actually start afterwards, finally we start seeing up because I think a lot of people are just waiting and see what happens, right? And let's not forget, 40,000 BTC, yes, that's an enormous amount of money, but we have guys like Michael Saylor that's buying this up like during lunchtime, okay? So this is, in the grand scheme of things, not the biggest amount that we have seen. Okay, we have seen Michael and others buy significant amount of Bitcoins that became non-events, right? So this will probably end up being a non-event as well. But, this is what everyone's talking about. Now, something else that people have been asking me about is whether or not Grayscale is the true reason why Bitcoin pumped up in the first place. Now, I think that's a legitimate question. I think that's a much, I'm going to need more time to explain it. But overall, I do think my gut tells me that Bitcoin, after surpassing 20,000, a lot of excitement, a lot of people were waiting to see what happens. Of course, it pumped to 30,000 really quick. And afterwards, I think we saw a collective FOMO from retail investors and institutional investors. Obviously, when institutional investors FOMO, there's not really much options for them to buy Bitcoin directly because they don't want to deal with security and all that stuff. So many of them just bought GBTC. And the more they bought, the more Grayscale bought and put Bitcoin into their trust, right? So that's one side of it. And of course, retail investors also FOMO'd in. So you have both sides. And now, I think the reason why we're back in the 30s is because all the retail investors left. The ones that came in looking to make quick buck, and some of them did, they probably left because they don't really want to hold or they didn't understand what they were getting into. But Grayscale still has all the Bitcoins they purchased, I believe over 600,000 Bitcoins. Plus, you have Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy with their 100,000 plus Bitcoin, among other companies, still with Tesla involved, Square involved, and many others that have bought. They're all holding, right? So it makes sense that we are hovering the 30,000s because of that. Because the big boys that bought still have it. Retail investors that bought, a lot of them left, right? And the remaining amount is what holders bought. So I think it does make a whole lot of sense, but I guess we'll see. This is coming this Friday, I believe, on the 16th. So we only have a few more days to wait and see what happens. Now, while we're waiting, let me show you these launch zone metrics. I did not create the name for launch zone. So there's an analyst here, Cole Gardner. So he found this very cool taker buy sell ratio on CryptoQuant. I never heard of this, but basically it basically tracks the amount of buys and sell volume on all the major exchanges. And here we go. This is what I used on the thumbnail. So you have the launch zone, which is a point where Bitcoin starts to launch and go higher. And then you have the take profit zone where Bitcoin starts coming down. And this goes all the way back to 2019. And you could see that during this time right here, right, when Bitcoin hit this launch zone, according to this metric, that's when Bitcoin started rallying hard from its bottom and it started coming back up, right? And then you could see that when this hit the take profit zone, that's when Bitcoin came down a little bit, but not really. But you could see it hit launch zone again. And then you could see Bitcoin went up quite tremendously. And this time, when Bitcoin hit about 60,000, take profit also indicates it's going to come down, and it did. And now you can see this metric hit the take profit zone, basically, and started to come back up. It hasn't hit the green yet. But you know what? This is looking pretty accurate so far, right? Of course, these metrics, they work until they don't. Just like what I always say about TA or anything. But when you look at something that is bigger, longer term, right? It's more likely to be accurate, especially if you track it out over years upon years upon years. This is just interesting. Not to say that it has to be launch zone if we hit that point that Bitcoin starts rallying back up to 100,000. But it is one of those interesting metrics that gives you clear picture of what's going on and what may be coming. So there's that. And then, of course, there's other ones. For example, I covered this one before. This is the stock to flow deflection. And I showed this a few days ago, but this shows you how far off the stock to flow is versus Bitcoin's price right now. And whenever it's off in a big way, again, that indicates a bottom and that Bitcoin is in a launch zone. Now, stock to flow has worked since the inception of Bitcoin, although it wasn't, this metrics wasn't created at the very beginning. But Plan B, when he finally came out to stock to flow and applied to Bitcoin and went all the way back, and it has been accurate all these years. At some point, again, it will be invalidated or off, but right now, we haven't seen that yet. And if you see right here, that's where we are, about 59% off from stock to flow, at least where the metric is showing where Bitcoin should be. Again, when you look at some of these green zones or these bottom zones, that's when Bitcoin started launching upwards, right? So is this another metric that shows Bitcoin is about to launch? Quite possibly. Now, what else is there? Well, obviously a big thing recently is Bitcoin mining. Okay, all these miners getting kicked out from China. They have to spin up somewhere else, right? And because profitability is so high right now, basically Bitcoin profit is 100% higher than just, a month ago. Bitcoin miners are incentivized to spin up as much as possible. So if you look at the total hash rate for Bitcoin, it does look like it has found the bottom and started coming up. Now, this is using a 7-day average. If you use the raw values, you'll see that Bitcoin's hash rate has come up significantly. So this is another possible launch zone event where we know that a lot of the miners, when they were being forced out, they have to sell. They have to sell to make capital to move their equipment and find a new location and so forth, right? So it makes a whole lot of sense that they had to sell a lot of Bitcoin, and once they find their permanent location, of course they will spin back up, and then they no longer need to sell anymore. So this could also be another bottom indicator. All right, now I think that's all the bottom indicators I have. I was curious this morning, decided to look at BTC liquidations. Unfortunately, we still have some days where the longs are just getting wrecked. You can clearly see the longs are red, the shorts are green. We have some days where more shorts are getting wrecked, but the longs still somehow get caught off guard. I just don't get the point of using leverage at this point. There's so much fake out, so much movement. It's just so hard to time. If you buy and you make a mistake and it goes down, okay, you hold it. You could wait for it to come back up and you can dollar cost average. You buy leverage 10, 20, 50, 100x, there's no recourse. You get wrecked. So I still I still don't understand the people that are trying to play leverage, either long or short. You're just setting yourself to get wrecked. So that's unfortunate to see. What else is there? Well, JP Morgan wants to spread some more FUD. They don't like El Salvador and them moving towards Bitcoin as a legal tender, which is coming out in September. So JP Morgan is saying, well, there's a lot of things that's not going to work out, like Bitcoin's illiquid nature, volatility, US dollar conversion risks, just everything, the whole 9 yards, right? Of course, JP Morgan has to say that. But if El Salvador came out and said, hey, we're going to embrace JP Morgan coin as a legal tender, I'll guarantee you JP Morgan will come out an article with 100 things why that's a good idea. But when it comes to Bitcoin, of course, they're going to publish a lot of concerns. Just like yesterday, I covered Scott Miner of Guggenheim, which again came out with a huge FUD interview stating that he was wrong. Just a few months ago, he was claiming Bitcoin is going to go up to $600,000. Now he's claiming it's going to go down to $10,000 because it's Tulomania and that he's no longer interested. Is that really the case? These bankers or banks, they just say one thing, but they They're really doing another. So unfortunately, you still have FUD that's going on. Here's Fidelity digital assets. This is a good thing for altcoin holders. Fidelity digital assets to increase headcount by 70%. But the reason for that is the staff will be used to develop new products and expand into crypto other than Bitcoin. And guess what it's going to be? Well, it's financial products, which means it's DeFi. This is why I've been talking so much about DeFi and why I think it's just going to grow. We're very early. This is also a reason why I became really bullish on Ethereum, because of all the institutional interest, because of DeFi, right? DeFi is definitely the newest financial sector, let's just put it that way. And the newest financial products is all coming from DeFi, right? This is why the big boys do want to get in while things are cheap and while they're still relevant. These big boys, as part of centralized finance, they all want to partake because they don't want to become old dinosaurs. They want to stay relevant. They want to stay on top of it. And it's not a surprise. It's not a surprise. If you look at what DeFi is doing, it can one day replace centralized finance. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not, next year. But 10, 20 years out, DeFi is going to be very, very different versus what it is now. All right. What else? Mark Cuban. Those of you guys have kids are probably looking forward to the new Space Jam, although whenever LeBron does something, people just have to compare him to Jordan. So, of course, people are starting to hate on Space Jam just because they're like, well, he's no Jordan, and Michael's Space Jam will always be the best. And it's like people are knocking the film even before it comes out. But anyways, Mark Cuban's backed NFT play, Nifty, raised $10 million, and they're debuting with Space Jam NFTs. Now, Mark Cuban's investment in Axis Infinity, which is also NFT based, project, has done really well. This one, maybe, but there's a lot. There's a lot of marketplaces that's already involved with movies and movie studios like Ecomi, Terra Virtua, among others. So this other one, Nifty, I don't know how well they're going to do, but Mark Cuban seems to be backing them. All right. So what else is there? Okay. Lastly, a major South Korean bank announces crypto custody service. This is not really a surprise. I believe they're the third or fourth largest bank in South Korea. South Korea is one of the biggest nations that embrace crypto. And it just came out that they are getting their internet giants to help create their CBDC, their central bank digital currency. So obviously China's leading the way to digital yuan, but every other country, South Korea is coming out their own, and we know US, Powell has talked about it, right? But we seem to be very, very behind. I don't know what happened with Facebook Dem. That's supposed to be still being worked on, and I don't think the US government's going to allow or trust Facebook to run its nation's CBDC. But there's that, and other countries are also talking about it. So again, this is not a surprise. This is the future. Crypto, digital currency, digital wallets, blockchain. This is all part of our future. Whether or not we care or like, and whether or not the naysayers will say that this means the death of crypto. No, it doesn't. It doesn't, because when you have a central bank coming out digital currency, it does not compete. It does not compete with Bitcoin. It does not compete with Ethereum. It doesn't compete with any of these chains that are the foundations of the next revolution, DeFi revolution, or the decentralized revolution, right? These are still fiat converted to digital, and there's still going to be monetary policy and inflation and all that built in. And it really doesn't compete with crypto, although it uses cryptographic, functions and functionality is similar. And what's good about this is it gets people aware and in tune with what's going on, especially with digital wallets and other things that comes with it. So, and payment networks and stuff like that. So I think it's overall, I think this is a pretty good thing. It may not be good for, say, like XRP or Ripple, but overall, it's a good thing. All right. Lastly, before Q&A, I have a new sponsor. Now, this sponsor is very, very, very interesting. One I haven't heard of before. First decentralized vesting platform, Locklet. And this is very important for those of you guys that have trust issues with projects, especially if you're going to invest in a new project that is having an IDO, ILO, whatever kind of token offering. This is a project that helps project leaders, project founders to actually lock up, and you could verify that it locked up their tokens. Very interesting. There's a lot of projects out there that claim that, hey, we locked up this number of tokens, and hey, we don't have the key for this lockup. There's a lot of excuses out there, right? But ultimately, do you trust them? Is that real? Well, now with a third party, with Locklet, you could actually prove it. That's what they're all about. They are multi-chain. They're natively on Ethereum, but they also work with Binance Smart Chain, Huobi, Tron, and Neo. But this is all about vesting. So you could do team vesting. So if there's a project that says I have, 5% or 10% vested for that's vested for the team, and it's supposed to be locked up for 5 years. Okay, how do you guarantee that they won't sell within 5 years? Well, they could put it to Locklet, right? And it's the same thing with venture vesting, community vesting, right? You could create a whole bunch of things, even if you're a community member. There's a lot of open source projects out there where the community is pretty much running the show. Community can also show that they're vesting into a project where it's basically locked in for a certain amount of time, right? And it's the same thing with many other things that you can do with basically locking your tokens, right? That's what they're all about. So when you do that, they issue a certificate that cryptographically proves to everyone that you're committed, and you could do various things with time and so forth. So they have their own token, which you would use to basically pay the fees to lock in something, to vest. Also, it's a deflationary asset. They claim, according to them, 45% of the fees is burned, 45% is redistributed to the stakers, and 10% is acquired by the Locklet Foundation. So 10% does go to the team. And according to their roadmap, where are they right now? They're right here. They're about, after their launch, they're going to get some pools on Uniswap and PancakeSwap. They're going to come out their mainnet. And then Q3, they're going to do their governance launch and staking launch and scaling through Polygon. So they are planning on moving from Ethereum natively to Polygon later on, right? So, and then they have a nifty a really lightweight light paper that kind of runs down everything. And here are the founders. That's it. That's Locklet. So it's all about decentralized vesting and proving that the founders of a team are actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. Interesting project. So if you want to check them out, their URL is in the description of this video. All right, that is it. Let's do some Q&A. All right, scrolling up. Let's see what I missed here. Mark Carter says no leverage, no margin. Don't forget. I 100% agree with that. I mean, you're setting yourself up to get wrecked if you're trying to leverage. And margin is better, But still, you have to prepare. There are dangers that come with margin. Basically, you put down your collateral and you're borrowing money, right? There are still dangers to that. Edgar, saw your comment about the dollar. That is pretty much true. Chad, I appreciate that. Saw it. Mark Cuban and king of advertising rug pulls. I'll say Mark Cuban, you know, he's like really jumping in 100% into crypto now. It's just so funny that, you know, 3-4 years ago, he came out and said, yeah, I can't stand crypto. I can't stand Bitcoin. I can't stand Ethereum. You know, I'd rather buy bananas over everything. And now he's like fully all in, right? And he has made some calls, very, very bad calls before, including one that I followed and I recommended. And that is Unicoin Gold. It was an e-sporting betting platform. And I remember when that came out, he invested along with Ashton Kutcher and all these major celebrities. I'm like, man, I like the premise, I like the backers, but man, that project just died really hard. And we know Mark Cuban, his what is that? What's that one that he got rug pulled recently? Iron Finance or something? I know some people will get mad and say, oh, they weren't rug pulled, but yeah, honestly, they did. What else is there? Your honest thoughts on Million Token? I already shared it many times. I don't talk about useless coins. So yeah. What else is there? Rich Buddy asks, Cuba could use Bitcoin. They are in the middle of a revolution today. Any country that has economic uncertainty or economic woes, currency, you know, inflating to the moon, or even countries that have a lot of citizens that are unbanked, they could all embrace Bitcoin. I mean, Bitcoin is universal, and anyone can embrace them at any time. Darcy says, this is a bear market. These channels can't admit it or won't get any views anymore. So here's the thing with bears, including yourself, Darcy. If you really think so, then why are you here? Why are you still watching channels that are bullish? Get out of the market. No one is forcing you to stay in the market. See, the thing is, all the bears out there, and whenever Bitcoin comes down, of course, there's a lot of bears out there. They're miserable, so they have to try to bring everyone else down to their level. That's the thing with bears. It's like, it's a natural thing. If they lost out or they never got in the first place, right? They have to try to bring others down because it makes themselves feel good. Because they're really deep down miserable people, right? So if you really hated crypto and you think it's done, then get out. Why are you still spending all your time watching people on YouTube then? It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So that's my answer to you, Darcy. James says Max Kaiser's a weirdo, but I respect the man. I agree with that sentiment. I mean, sometimes he's way out there, and he's kind of a conspiracy theorist too, and he really hates the banks and so forth, which I agree with. But overall, you can't fault the guy for sticking up for Bitcoin, has been in it for so long, and continue to promote Bitcoin. You know, that's why I have big respect for Max. Super Google asked, E10K still possible this year? Yes, 5x from here. I think that is still possible because I still maintain that Bitcoin will recover. It will get back up to 60,000 and head to 100,000 by the end of the year. It's at least 3x from here. So if Bitcoin could go 3x, can Ethereum go 5x? Sure. And again, I like to remind you guys, so I put this up on purpose. I think a lot of you guys are purposely not looking at it, especially the bears. Because the bears will look at this, oh, look at it, you know, everything's down 7 days or a month, right? But then you look at 1 year and then you realize how silly it is to look at it that way. If you're always looking at the cup half empty, then of course you're going to have a negative perception. But if you look at the cup half full, then you realize, well, had you just stayed in and just hold the dollar cost average, you will be up thousands of percents. That's why I'm going to leave this up here as a reminder for you guys. What else is there? Scrolling down. What's for lunch today? I don't know. I have some leftovers. So someone asked me, you say CDBCs are a threat to Ripple. You don't understand what they are building. They are working to use XRP as a bridge currency. That is what Ripple wants, but that doesn't mean it's going to happen. I still like to see that. I'm not against Ripple. It's just that I don't buy that these banks are going to be using XRP for that reason. That's the thing. If it happens, great. I love to see that happen. But when banks coming out with their own, the countries coming out with their own, it's just really hard. And plus, there's other projects that's in the same space. In fact, I've been doing more research into Quant, why it's so hot, and that's one of the reasons why it is doing so hot, because their overledger also allows you to have interoperability with many things, including stablecoins. So Ripple's not the only one in the game with that. So we'll see. Can you look at Startup Boost SubX token? It's used as a venture capital. Well, I'm going to stop right there. If there's tokens that's used as venture capital, I'm not interested in it. I don't see why it's necessary. And it's probably not allowed in many jurisdictions too. Best coin mark pick was Matic. Well, that is true. I totally forgot. He did back Matic in a big way, so that's pretty good. Scrolling down. Brian asks, if you're an entrepreneur that has a solid idea for a token and you want to launch it the right way, do you go to the SEC? Yes and no. Because going to the SEC, it's going to take years to get approval. But that's the most legit way to do it. But if you're an entrepreneur with very little capital, you don't have, time or the money to work with SEC, right? Then you should really focus on what you're creating. Don't create a token that promises to go to the moon. Create a token that is, in fact, a utility. Don't hype it up or don't shill it as something that people can make profit from. Make sure you focus on why that token is actually a utility token. But the problem is most entrepreneurs don't want to do that. Most entrepreneurs want to get rich. And in terms of getting rich, they have to make the token price go up, right? And that's how people get in trouble. But if you're a true entrepreneur, you're doing it for long term, and you actually are focusing on crypto or blockchain for the right reasons, right? I think you could do it, but you got to be careful. You just have to be careful. Storage is a decentralized storage. It's an okay play. They're in a very crowded market. DAG, Constellation, Telcoin, Vera are the Holy Trinity. I kind of agree, except Vera. I don't believe what Vera is doing. I don't think it's not so explosive. It's not that impressive. InstaDApp, lots of money invested in it. I never heard of InstaDApp before. They're actually pretty big. 817 million market cap, huh? Almost to 1 billion. What do they do? They're mostly on Uniswap. Doesn't really say what they do. Yeah, I don't know. Too bad. Too bad there's nowhere to click. Building DeFi, the world's most advanced platform to start leveraging the full potential of decentralized finance. Maybe I have looked at this before. Oh, I know why. I know why. I know why people are bringing it up. Because they saw it on DeFi Pulse. This is not true. They don't have 8.8 billion locked in. Because they're like a portal that has a lot of other DeFi projects involved, like Maker and Uniswap and so forth. So they don't have that locked in. They're like a dApp for all things DeFi. So if you look at the total number of TVL locked in the projects that are outside of InstaDApp, that InstaDApp is including in their dApp, then yes, but that's actually really false. Really, blatantly false. And I'm surprised DeFi Pulse even listens to that. Brian Miller, isn't it good to hear both sides and not just look for confirmation bias? I try to. I really do. Because I lived through 2018 to 2020 and 2014 to 2016. I really try to look at it. Am I really wrong? Is Grayscale really going to be a horrible thing for Bitcoin, right? And I try to look at a bigger picture. Like, if I'm 100% wrong, if Bitcoin falls to 20,000, if Bitcoin falls to 10,000, right? Does that mean it's over? No. Is there any reason to think it's over? No. If Grayscale unlocks and the market dumps, does that mean it's going to stay down forever? No. Right? Because I'm focusing on investing. And I'm looking at, are countries still getting involved with Bitcoin? Yes. Paraguay is about to announce something any day now. Right? Did the big boys all sell? Did everyone on this list start selling off? Where's that list I have? Did these guys all start selling off? No. Do all the metrics show that Bitcoin has topped out and is going down? No. Right? So I do plenty of that. I try to not just stay within my zone and look at what everyone else is saying. And I feel like I'm on the right path. So I mean, honestly, that's the best way I can answer that. Man asks, hey George, how much of a percentage deviation on stock to flow is needed for you to consider it's no longer valid? I don't know. I have no idea. It could be way, way, way off. Where's the stock to flow? Like here. If Bitcoin fell back down to, let's just worst case scenario. Let's just say it fell back down to 10,000, which will bring it back down here, right? Then yeah, maybe for this time it does, but there's no reason to think why it can't climb back up and get back to where it should be. That's the thing. It's the same with this. I'll show you this because this was a big deal and then no one talks about it anymore. The Bitcoin logarithmic growth curve, which you could see starting from beginning to now, we're still within the range, right? But there was a point in time right here where it broke below the range, right? And the bears is like, this is it. Bitcoin's done. It has never done this before, ever. And it's just going to drop and we're done, right? Well, guess what happened? Bitcoin recovered back up and now we're within the range again, right? So again, just because if we are off or it does something that it hasn't done before, doesn't mean that it's total disaster. It's not 100% disastrous. I guess that's what I'm getting at. So even if stock to flow really becomes invalidated, doesn't mean that it won't turn back up. So again, that doesn't change anything, in my opinion. All right. Scrolling down. Vapor Smooth, yes, they're having their IO today, Locklet. I mean, honestly, I get pitched 100 different projects all the time. I haven't seen another one that is actually in that vesting space. So that premise is actually pretty unique. I see a lot of people reacting to what I said to Darcy. I don't mean for people to get on someone, but it irritates me when I see comments like that. Tammy had her message retracted. Michael, in reference to the bears, these last 2 months have been an excellent time to accumulate. Everything on discount, yes. It always happens. Whenever there's a prolonged non-movement or downtrend, people will come out and try to make everyone feel bad. But ultimately, what can you do, right? You prepare for the worst and you hope for the best. And you focus on the future, right? So that's the best thing you could do. Best thing you could do. And for me, I've been through a few cycles. I made many mistakes. I won't pretend like I've been right all the time. In fact, I'm probably wrong. Probably been wrong more than I've been right. But the one thing that I know that has been right and has always been right with crypto and Bitcoin is simply by dollar cost averaging and holding. So I'm going to continue to do so. But for those of you guys that are trying to prepare for worse, right? What can you do? Well, have a lot of cash on hand. Try to get cash, right? In case we go down, then you have the opportunity to buy more in DCA at a lower price, right? But panic selling is definitely not the way to do it. If you panic sell, that never leads to good things. Never does. But if you're selling on the way up as you're taking profits, that's a good thing. But like right now, most people are trying to, and wondering if they should panic sell. And that if you're already in the red and you're panic selling, that's basically the worst thing you could do. You're actually taking a real loss rather than just sitting on an unrealized loss. Kyber Network as a decentralized exchange, I think they're good. They have good integration with the hardware wallets, so I think they can do well. It's just they don't get a whole lot of attention because they're not really like an AMM, but maybe they will. I think they're trying to transit towards that direction. I'm not going to look at that. Look at Moon Juice? No, I'm not going to look at that. What else is there? Oh, last few questions. What are your thoughts on crypto regulation? I think some regulation is good. It's forward thinking. You have to have it for crypto exchanges and products and projects to survive. But hopefully it doesn't get too heavily regulated. But I think regulation is needed, especially with what we're seeing, price suppression, collusion, manipulation. Some of these things gone would be a fantastic thing. Does Binance manipulate the market by exchanges on coins they don't actually have? I mean, that's just speculating. I'm going to say no. Maybe it does happen. I can't say. But there's a lot of people that love to bash Binance all the time. So I would ignore the FUD. If not covered, BUSD is 1-to-1 with USD since it's minted by Pax, according to BitBook's CEO. Okay, interesting for sharing. Someone shared that. I have not verified that, but I will have to. Because I trust USDC a lot more than USDT, but people have asked about BUSD, so I have to look at that. But thanks for sharing. All right, that's pretty much it. Any words of wisdom for newbies? I already said many words of wisdom, so scroll back if you haven't. If I could go back to March of 2019, where I barely discovered crypto, I had $30,000 to put down, but I was scared. My wife said I was stupid. Yeah, see, hindsight is always 20/20. Okay, so that's just how it is. So when you're first getting in, the best thing you could do is just try to be smart about it. Right? Don't risk too much. Never invest more than what you can afford to lose. Sprout your buys and be patient. Ultimately, it's the patience game. It really is about patience. All right, that's pretty much it. Have you been following Tone Vase? No, I have not. His channel has really died. Really died. I don't know why. Last one. What do you think about Phantom? I like Phantom. Hopefully they can bring more dApps aboard, but they have promise. All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for tuning in. As always, smash a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys tonight, 8:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. All right? Have a good one, guys.